The opinions shared in this podcast are those of the host and are not meant to reflect the positions of NAMI Oklahoma or licensed mental health professionals. If you have questions or concerns about your own mental health, please reach out to a qualified expert. And remember, if you're ever in a crisis, you can call or text 988 for immediate support.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to episode 8 of NAMI Next Gen's Mindful Moment podcast. I'm Emma Valgora, and I'm so excited to welcome our special guest, Stephanie Wangler, here today. She is a LPC, which is a professional counselor, and we have her on today to talk about a really important topic, which is productivity culture in today's society. So, welcome in, Stephanie. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me.
Yes, of course. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your work?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I am in private practice. I have been in private practice since 2019. And before that, I worked for Red Rock Behavioral Health Services. I was there as an intern, and then I was there all during my supervision hours. So I have about 10 years of experience doing counseling.
So we're going to start by asking, what is productivity culture and why do we think our current society has adapted to it so much?
It's a really involved question.
It's a deep one.
It is. Well, productivity culture is more of like a modern conceptualization of what actually is a deep-rooted puritanical idea, kind of one of the founding ideas of our country. And it is based in like the Puritan work ethic, which was like working hard is a way of not just to survive, but to like earn favor from God, that like hard work was akin to godliness. So I also specialize in religious trauma, so I don't know how much I need to go into that, but it is, and it's something that like over the course of history, since the inception of the cotton gin and then the Industrial Revolution, it's actually really the idea of increasing productivity has been used to like shame people into hard work for a very long time, for really millennia. But in today's society, I think with the advent of social media and influencers and TikTok, I think for young people today, it's more rooted in that like hustle culture, that like rise and grind. And it really presents in some unhealthy ways when we're living in this era of comparing ourselves to other people.
Yes. Yeah. So this reminds me a lot of our episode from a few months ago. We did an episode on setting boundaries.
Oh, great.
And so I'm kind of thinking back to that while speaking right now, because I think as a college student, that's exactly what I feel. I constantly see on social media, and I constantly have friends doing things, and I myself am very, very guilty of that, of overloading my schedule and trying to take on 5 million things that I really, really want to do. And for a really, really long time, I felt like I was not of worth if I was not doing and if I was not like achieving. And so I've gotten a little better, but I think it's something that every human being naturally wants to be included and be involved.
Absolutely. I mean, part of the concept of productivity culture, hustle culture, all of that is that somehow our inherent worth as a human being is based on these like measurable, this outcome or these specific outcomes, right? Like what type of work we produce, how much money we make, like how many things we accomplish in a day. And it dovetails very nicely into perfectionism. And what's really fascinating to me about the hustle culture itself is that I feel like not only is it something that I think really negatively impacts a lot of our mental health, it's also like a maladaptive coping mechanism that people develop, this like constant state of busyness as a way of avoiding emotional dysregulation and distress. So, and I mean, so many of us are guilty of that, right? But like if we stay busy, keep busy, do all the right things. So I think it's something that really permeates most of our lives.
It really is. And I'm in college, so I still have not really fully overcome that. But I think that something that really, really helped was going to therapy and learning and opening up to different suggestions and realizing that there is so much more to life than just what you do, and that like the people you surround yourself with and the memories you make, that in itself can be very fulfilling. That's just what I had to start learning so that I would stop basing my worth in productivity.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that really hard like work ethic concept gets folded into this concept of rest and even just pleasurable activities like going to movies with friends, as that's almost like sinful.
Yeah. Like taking a break should not be a problem.
It's you're lazy.
Yeah. But you should include. So could you explain how specifically productivity culture negatively affects young adults?
Absolutely. I think productivity culture creates, well, in addition to just creating this inherent culture of like comparison, which we know is pretty immensely unhealthy, it really does link with a higher rate of perfectionism, anxiety, depression, like really pretty serious mental, symptoms, negative mental health symptoms. And living with states of anxiety and increased cortisol and all of those things are really unhealthy for us mentally, emotionally, and physically. So we have data. The American Psychological Association conducted a study in 2023, and the data showed that 20 to 30 something year old adults are significantly more stressed, report higher levels of distress, and significantly more of them report distress than any older generation did. There are actually data also on younger kiddos. As a mom, that really worries me that kids as young as middle school are reporting levels of stress.
Yes.
And I just think that the way that we have set up productivity culture and the way that we view our worth is linking anything other than perfectionism to a character flaw, and that we're inherently flawed if we are imperfect, and that perfection is unattainable.
It's not achievable. I mean,
For anybody, ever.
no.
And so then inherently people feel like failures. And then we have things that kind of perpetuate that. There was a quote that circulated on social media during the pandemic that really, really upset me. And it went around. I don't even know who it was from, but like,
It was it.
it was if you don't come out of this quarantine with either a new skill, starting what you've been putting off, like a new business, more knowledge, or a new language, then you didn't lack time, you lacked discipline. And
I'm so glad I never read that.
I saw that on multiple fronts. And as someone who is actively, offering therapy through a pandemic.
Did you meet virtually with your?
I did. I actually started my practice in August of 2019. So I had to pivot pretty quickly and learn how to do all that while having a first and second grader at home. Like, yeah, virtual school for first grade was rough. But observing our young people during this pandemic, this was so hard on people's mental health.
Oh gosh, yes.
I mean, people were dealing with sick family members, people were dealing with existential fear of dying well before their brains kind of usually get there, i.e. young people in their 20s don't usually worry about that.
And like isolation.
No, for sure.
That's really hard, like as a young adult, as a high schooler, as a teenager, in your room at a screen.
There were, people, who had addiction issues, relapse. Like, I was just like, the world at large is struggling so much. Like, how dare you use this as a moment to shame people? Like, if you learned how to bake sourdough and started a garden and like got flat abs in the pandemic, I'm so happy to you. But a lot of us were just barely
like trying to like survive and get through said pandemic.
Exactly. So I think it leads to this. I think it leads to a lot of very specific symptoms, and then just this broader culture of like shaming other people.
I would agree with. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about productivity culture, I want to ask, as a therapist, why do you think therapy is important in combating these?
Absolutely. I think therapy is important for everyone. Therapy, at its core, aside from being an evidence-based way of addressing mental illness, is just good for us in our daily lives. Going and speaking to someone who is theoretically neutral, we're supposed to be neutral, but we're only hearing your side of the story. But having like a really neutral third party objective opinion Because everybody else that you talk to, especially if you're talking about really deeply personal issues, that's with your closest people. And all those people have some skin in the game, right? Like, because they love you or they're protective of you, or they, they wouldn't fix it and they want, you not to be sad. And of course, your therapist wants that too, but we're also trained to deal with sitting with uncomfortable things. So having that neutral third party can really help bring awareness to, unhealthy coping mechanisms like staying busy all the time, challenge you to think about what your priorities are. Something that I do with a lot of my clients is I'm like, I need you to sit there and close your eyes and think about imagine yourself at 80 years old, really. And I want you to envision if you have your best life, if you do all the things that mean things to you, like what do you see? What do you see around you? Like, are you interviewing as you hand over the reins to your Fortune 500 company? And that's fine if that's your goal. There's nothing wrong with that. Or is it like you're sitting on a porch with your significant other and you have a good relationship with your children and ideally grandchildren? And I mean, for me, I'm always like that my body is healthy. Like I want to be mobile at 80. I want to be hiking in my 70s. I want to be sitting there with my husband, hopefully with a really good relationship with my kids, on the porch looking at a mountain, right? Like that's what I want. And so if those are the things that we really want, then even now in your teens and 20s, prioritize the things that help get you to that point. And that is taking truly healthy care of your body, not making it be a certain size or look a certain way, but taking care of your joints and eating whole, well-rounded meals. It's investing in relationships and taking the time to invest in the things that will help get you toward those goals.
It's really, really funny that you say this story because my therapist, shout out Jamie, my therapist, which I told the story on a previous episode, so sorry to repeat. But what finally kind of really like snapped me out of my like burnt outness and
Perfectionism.
Yes. She asked, if I were to die tomorrow, what would you want people to go say about you at your funeral? Like, would you want them to be bringing up all of these, like, oh, she worked out every day, she won the blue ribbon at the science fair? Like, would you want them to speak about, like, what a good friend you were and what a good human being you were? And that was when I was like, oh, ooh.
It is. It's jarring because I think we get stuck in this everyday grind of doing our best and being the best. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it really has.
It's wrong if it like consumes your mind and it's like your only goal in life. For sure. I think that's wrong.
Well, it's just harmful.
It is. Therapy helped me realize that.
I think everyone should be in therapy. I do too. I mean, I am. So my clients always ask me if my therapist, shout out Amy, is their grand therapist. Yeah. And then I also had a really awesome client who asked me, wait, so if I defeat your level, do I go to your therapist next? Like, is it like Mario? I was like, I love that idea. But I think having that accountability, honestly, because we can even tell our mom, like, okay, I'm going to do better. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to like have more spinach or whatever it is, or take an actual rest day off of dance or, exercise or whatever. But we're not necessarily, no one's really holding you accountable to that. Your mom loves you. And I hope you have good check-ins with your mom, but your therapist is like, okay, what did you really do to take care of yourself this week? And doing that like weekly check-in helps us stay accountable to the goals that we really want to hit.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'd really highly recommend, because I get really bad about postponing goals and being very anyways, I just get bad about that. And so having a person who is very persistent and like wants the best for me and is unbiased in that need is very, very helpful.
Exactly.
Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about therapy, I want to ask your suggestions on how a person should go about finding a therapist and if there's any considerations they should take, especially from afar, because it probably seems very overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. Yes. And as a therapist, I really try hard to be aware of that. Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to brainstorm for yourself kind of what you want to work on. And there's nothing wrong with just seeking help because everything feels so overwhelming. So even if it's just like, I just need some help, But I do recommend that people be like, oh, I think my life would be easier if. It's almost like that therapists call it the magic wand question. Like if somebody waved a magic wand and everything were better, what would look different? So it's like you can't change anything in the past. It's not that kind of wand, right? It's the wand that like from this moment forward, everything looks better. And then when you think about it, what is it that looks different? And it's like, oh, well, I'm calmer, I get more sleep, I have a better relationship with my dad, or whatever that looks like for you. I think that can help you narrow down your goals. And then once you do that, educate yourself first and foremost, because nobody needs to add financial stress to, mental health stress. So educate yourself about what your options are. And it's so overwhelming. I'm a therapist and I deal with insurance companies literally almost daily. And it is so overwhelming for me after years of doing it. So I have so much empathy for that. But get out the card. If you have an insurance card, call the 800 number on the back and ask, what is my coverage? What is covered? And then educate yourself about the difference between a deductible and a copay. Those are hard. A deductible is a certain amount that you have to hit before your insurance will start paying for it. So like, for example, my services, if Blue Cross Blue Shield pays me $104 a session, you're responsible for that up until you hit that $500, $5,000 deductible. So then you're paying that therapist what Blue Cross would until you hit your deductible. Some plans don't have a deductible and you just straight up start paying a copay and you're paying $25, $35, $40 or whatever. I did make a list because there are always low cost and free options. And I don't ever want people to be discouraged and to feel like they're not going to be able to get help. So I have a list. I'm not going to read off the whole list, but I don't know if you guys can post it.
Let it in.
Okay. I have a list of not all, some great free and low cost options for people in any setting.
That's perfect.
Because and that's something that I always stress. So figuring out a little bit about what you want to work on, educating yourself about, how to start as far as like, do I need someone that takes Blue Cross Blue Shield or am I going to be paying out of pocket? And then going through and finding the right person. Mm-hmm. And it is something that time and time again, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, all these people run all these studies to show what works for mental illness and what is the most, they want to come up with like a 10 session fix for depression or something like that. And time again, like, oh, is it only CBT? Is it only certain types of therapy? The consistent predictor of positive outcomes to therapy is the therapeutic relationship. It's basically how connected you and your therapist are in an appropriate professional way. So trusting that person, feeling safe with them, and their ability to challenge you is what predicts a good outcome.
I think that's something that some people may be nervous about starting therapy. Like, well, what if I get a therapist who doesn't like understand me or who I don't click with? So have you ever had that happen? And like, do you get offended when that happens or
never? And I tell people, I've had it happen for myself when I was seeking my own therapy.
Okay.
And I've also had that happen with clients. And it's something I say at my very first session. And even when I do like a kind of a quick screening phone call before we even set anything up, I'm not the right therapist for everyone. Yeah. It would be ridiculous to think I was a great fit for everyone. I am somewhat unconventional. I have my facial expressions are always out loud. I kind of have a potty mouth sometimes. I'm not for everybody. And I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And so my goal is always to help a client find the right therapist. It's not to try to make me be their right therapist. If something isn't working, or even if we've worked together well for 10 months or a year and we're kind of a little stuck, I want to help figure out who to pass you off to, who might have a little bit of a different insight. And a good therapist is never going to be offended by something like that. Part of having healthy boundaries is knowing that you are not responsible for your therapist's feelings and that you should not feel guilty for saying this isn't working out for me.
Absolutely.
So finding the right person is critical.
So now that we've talked a little bit more about therapy and therapy options, and now that you know that we're both big pro therapy fans, we're gonna deep dive into a little more coping options for those who maybe feel like they cannot afford therapy or have not yet tried it, could you recommend some coping skills for those who are struggling with the effects of productivity?
Absolutely. I mean, the first step in addressing any issue is recognizing that there is an issue. Being aware that while this is a culture that is being imposed on us, we do have the capacity and the responsibility to ourselves to kind of pivot away from that. And while that's extremely hard, and we probably, a lot of us have had some perfectionist, tendencies and some of these things, our soil was kind of ripe for this type of seed to be planted. That it's recognizing that, we're continuing to engage in this. So, I mean, the first thing I tell people, and I have to do this often on myself, is like regulate how much you engage in social media. Think about what you're following. If you're watching animal videos of raccoons eating grapes and that makes you happy, I'm here for it. But if you're following influencers that are telling you, then if you just do 25 extra things, you're going to look and feel the way you want, maybe not the best thing to be following.
Also, even friends, I've had to like reuse some stories. That way I'm still like following and supporting.
Like, I love this person,
but I need distance.
For sure. Absolutely. And that is, that folds into, I know you guys had a whole episode about boundaries, but setting boundaries is more than just, I think boundaries have a little bit of like, they're a hot button issue that people talk about, but they're kind of misunderstood. Mm-hmm. And setting a healthy boundary is more about regulating your own choices. And so it's telling yourself, I'm just going to, for example, what I do is I just delete Facebook and TikTok and those things
entirely.
Delete them off my phone. Like, I delete the app. Uh-huh. So then I have to open a browser and log in if I want to look at it. So it's crazy how just that one extra step, like how much I just defaulted to like my thumb pressing this thing. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing a lot more crosswords and reading on my Kindle and like not having that automatic just default, it's right there, having to really be like, do I want to open Google Chrome and log into Facebook, and what is that? What am I going to be getting out of that? So being responsible about what you're consuming, I think, whether that exactly like, it's important for us to think about how we feel after we hang out one-on-one with human beings. Like, we've all had those friends that we love and adore, but maybe we drain you. Yeah. Or you feel a little competitive in a way that isn't like mutually beneficial. Think about what your energy level is before you spend some time with the person. And if it's really a lot lower consistently afterwards, it doesn't mean we cut those people out of our life, but maybe we don't see them once a week. Maybe we see them a little less frequently. So setting healthy boundaries with people, that means taking time off of work, not working overtime. There are like interesting data from 2023 also about, I think it was 40 Pew Research Center did a survey, and 46% of the American workforce does not take all their days off.
Oh, that does not surprise me at all. No, that's not surprising.
And it's fine, but is it? Like,
it just reminds me of my mom. Like, both of my sister and I had to move this summer, and she was like, well, I mean, I have for 14 days left, but should I really take one off when I'm not sick? I mean, I don't really need to. Sorry, Mom, I love you. Plug, sorry, Mom. But it just like, that's exactly what I think of. There's this feeling that you need to work. You need to constantly be there unless you're like sick or dying. And for sure, I just feel like that's inaccurate.
I agree. And obviously, if you have confined like PTO, like vacation and sick time, it's important to save, sick time in case you are ever ill. But at the same time, like, I feel like it is, again, it's like a symptom of this broader culture of not taking care of ourselves. So another hot button topic that people, all over social media is like self-care. And I think self-care has gotten a really bad rap because there's a complicated history about self-care that maybe you can have another episode about, but it's not about going on a yoga retreat, in Costa Rica. I wish it were, but that's not accessible. You don't have to have a week off and thousands of dollars to engage in self-care. Self-care can be literally
taking a nap,
100%. Better sleep hygiene, making, setting a boundary with yourself that like, I'm going to get off my phone at 10:30 and try to get in bed by 11, or, taking a little space from some of those people that are draining. Doing something kind for yourself it does not have to be this extravagant thing or one more thing to check off your productivity list.
I agree. I think those are some small steps that we can all take, whether you feel like you're struggling with productivity or not. Those are some steps that we can take to be taking care of ourselves better. Absolutely. So with that being said, that is all of the questions that we had to talk about today. So I want to thank Stephanie so much for being here and for her time, because this was really, really helpful and very insightful.
You're welcome.
And before we depart, our viewers, do you have any last words of wisdom?
I guess be gentle with yourself, be kind. Rest is not the same thing as laziness. Self-care doesn't have to cost money, and take the time to find the right therapist.
Yes. Oh my God, I just love her. Yes. Well, I want to thank you all too so much for tuning in to our podcast. We always love getting to create a safe space where we can talk about these issues and make sure that there's not a stigma surrounding these issues. So it's very important to us. And so with that being said, I'd also like to leave you all with a reminder that pretty soon, by the time this episode posted, probably within about a week or two, is our really big NAMI Changemakers event. It's going to be February 7th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in OKC at the International Dance Studio. We will have info linked in this bio about how to register, and we will also have Stephanie's info in the bio and the list of the therapy resources that she found linked in this bio, so that if you are interested in any of these resources or information, you can go look below and find what you're looking for. So with that being said, this is my first time ever having to say goodbye on this podcast. So to take wisdom from our dear Maya, I'm going to leave you all with my words of wisdom, which something that I heard a guest speaker say that really helped my mindset on positivity and productivity is that you are not what you do. You as a human being are not defined by what you're able to do. You are defined by your memories, your moments, and who you are as a person. And that is what truly matters at the end of the day. So,
Yes.
have such a good day. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our NAMI Next Gen Mindful Moments podcast.